Hey health seekers, it's Kate Shemirani here, natural nurse in a toxic world. Out here walking my dogs, so I must apologise if they suddenly run off and start barking. We've heard in the last couple of days that you now have to wear a mask to go shopping unless you have an exemption, and that exemption can even be just you're anxious covering your mouth, so remember that, folks. You don't have to wear a mask if you're one of the shop assistants because Mr. Coroni can determine whether you are a member of the public or a shopper. Yes, that's how ridiculous it is. And you don't have to wear them in offices either, even though that would be a lot of people in big offices. No. So do you see? They're yanking your chain. And we do have a chain round our ankle. If you think you're free, you're absolutely deluded. If you think your government is out to protect you, you're even more deluded. They don't give a damn. If you think that the healthcare system, the NHS, formerly known as the healthcare system, is there for your health, you're even more deluded. That whole healthcare system is there to make you sick, keep you sick, charge you for it along the way, and even charge you when you're dead. Now, we're told that the lockdown was for our benefit, and all I can see is it's absolutely destroyed the economy. All your big corporations are still going to be going, but all the small businesses are going to be bust. Right down to what I was saying in my last video about how they paid Pizza Hut. They're going to give them 50% subsidies to get people in there. Really? Why not give the small cafeterias subsidies? Why not give all those people using food banks because they can't afford to eat out? Anyway, we're told that to get back to normal, we're waiting for this vaccine. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to keep on saying it. No vaccine has ever been proven safe. No vaccine has ever been proven effective. No, they didn't stop the spread of polio. No, they didn't stop smallpox. They didn't do any of that. That's just propaganda. The whole thing about catching a virus was so that they could flog you, these deadly vaccines. Let me tell you, no vaccine's even been tested against another vaccine, so it goes against the Nuremberg code straight away, because you then become the experiment where they're testing two vaccines. How many vaccines do they give newborn babies all at once? Remember, 700 babies, children and babies die every week in America, and most of them are under one, but since this unlawful lockdown, that has dropped by 50%, and the only thing that's changed is they weren't vaccinated. So if that were to go on and you didn't vaccinate them for longer, that percentage, I'm sure, would drop further and further and further, and it's proven unvaccinated kids are much healthier. Now in the UK, vaccine-damaged children are given a cap of £120,000 from the government. And in America, over $4 billion have been paid by the governments to vaccine-damaged children. You don't hear that on the BBC. You don't hear that in the media. Oh no, because they're the lying liars of lies, just pimping for the lying tyrannical government. So what we see is them saying, oh, we're waiting for this vaccine, and when it comes out, even though it's had even more safety corners cut, remember I've said no vaccine's been proven safe, and they want to give it to everyone. Now we can go on again about what's in it. And remember there was a sterility agent in a tetanus vaccine that was given to Kenyan women and young girls, and they were all sterilised. And that was the Gates Foundation. They were caught doing that. But of course we've had Gates on the news with good old Boris the butcher. And he's not even in medicine, but we're listening to that. And remember, they've all got their fingers in the till. All of these government people have all got shares in pharma, all of them. They don't care about you or your children. And it's all right people saying to me, well, I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I am an anti-vaxxer, and I'll tell you why. Because who is speaking out for the children in care? Who's speaking out for all the elderly in care homes that are coerced into having a flu vaccine every year, a deadly flu vaccine? Who's speaking for them? Nobody. Nobody's speaking for the elderly. Remember, more elderly died during this lockdown than what died last year, and it wasn't of this COVID-19. They're culling them. Remember the critical frailty score? I've gone on about it. 1 to 9. 1 is fit and healthy and working, doing everything for yourself. 9 is about to die. Anyone over 6, that means if you need help with your shopping, you could be for do not resuscitate. If you can't meet your expected goals, the doctors and the nurses on the 29th of April 2020 were given the authority to choose that over you. It's like a license to kill. I think there's only one time in history I can remember that. The nurses of the third bleep. So look, this vaccine, who's going to be giving it? Well, we know that doctors' surgeries are privately owned now. They're ran as a profit-making business. So when they buy in a load of vaccines, they buy them in cheap. Now, depending on how many they give, they can put an invoice in to the strategic health authorities and it goes right up. They can, or whoever it goes into, they put that invoice in and they get paid for the amount that they do. So then they get a lot of profit then off what they've bought. So it's in their best interest to do as many as possible. It's really lucrative. Don't be fooled into thinking it's science, because a lot of science is just sorcery and witchcraft and lies. I've explained that in my last video. They've got nice cars, nice suits, kids in private school. They don't want to lose their livelihood. I know a lot of doctors like that. They don't want to speak out the truth. I've gone through all that with oncology. So who's going to be delivering these vaccines? The nurses. The nurses. I've asked so many nurses, do you know what the ingredients of a vaccine are? No. Do you know what those ingredients do to the human body? No. I've asked lots of doctors, do they know? No. But they're about to give it. It's a loaded weapon. They're going to inject it. They're just following the phony narrative, lie and propaganda of what they were taught in med school and nursing school. Vaccines are good for you. If they actually knew, they wouldn't do it. You'll meet two kinds of people that work in medicine. Those that are informed and those that aren't. Those that are informed won't do it anymore and they'll speak out. So I've met one doctor that in the NHS for 30 years, such a lovely man, a fantastic doctor. He's just been suspended for speaking out. There's a reconstructive surgeon in London. And politicians are calling for him to be suspended and struck off because he spoke out against that telecommunications network. You know, the very one that's going to activate some of your vaccines. That's fact. I got suspended by the Nursing and Midwifery Council. I kind of don't care. And what was interesting at the interim hearing, this was a group of nurses that made so many complaints. These very nurses, you know who you are. You're really unhealthy. All of you are very overweight. All of you don't know anything about healing. All of you have poor diet. A couple of you drink an awful lot. And one of you is certainly on a lot of drugs. So are you really health educators? Are you people I'd go to? No. In fact, one of you came to me for health. Anyway, I don't really care. You know what? Good always reigns supreme over evil, and right always supreme over wrong. And the truth always outs. The truth will prevail. So I know what's in them. So you can't fight when you don't know, and you really don't know. And I mean, on the panel yesterday, they had the police officer, the chief constable, who was under investigation for so many things, and was the woman who headed I think it was the Yorkshire Police, where she said it wasn't their fault that Jimmy Savile wasn't investigated or questioned. I mean, really? Really? That stuck in my throat like a fur ball. And then the other guy that's meant to be overseeing it just kept quoting little bits out the bundle, but not the whole lot. And also they went against a lot of guidelines. Like I say, I don't care, because it gets to a full hearing and then they have to prove everything that I've said is incorrect. And I'm so confident everything I've said is correct. But that is an organisation that is delivering harm to patients. Just delivering harm. They don't know how to heal. You go into a hospital, you see the food that they serve for a start. It's disgusting. You need a certain amount of protein, good protein for good tissue synthesis. I've gone over all that in my videos. They are literally hospitals. Yes, okay, emergency, but a lot of what's in there, they're not making you healthy. We all know that. Anyone watching me knows that. They're not places to make you healthy. It's an industry, it's a business, and you are a piece of meat, and that's fact. And they want you from the absolute womb, and they even inject the pregnant mothers with vaccines. So this is what's coming. I don't know what else to say, but all I will say is your governments are corrupt. I don't want to say my government because I'm kind of stuck here, but they're corrupt. And they're all working on the guidance of the World Health Organization. We've got Tedros the terrorist heading that one, once on the most wanted terrorist list. The United Nations, look at them. That's another bunch of terrorists. Look at all the things they've done. So here we are. Are you going to stay on your knees? Are you going to wear a mask? Because remember, an abusive relationship, when you agree to a demand, the next day there'll be 2. You agree to those, the next day there'll be 3. And these are all tests. They're tests. There's no science behind wearing a mask because I'm going to protect anybody. Nanoparticles go straight through a mask. It's to see if you'll do it. It's to see if you'll behave. It's to see if you'll do what you're told. It really is. It's an abusive relationship. And we're the victims, but we don't need to be. Anyway, folks, I am a qualified nurse. I am a trained nurse. So for all of you idiots out there and COVID-idiots out there, and you really are, because you are ultimately affecting our freedom. We are the awake ones. For you out there that go, oh, she's not a nurse. I am a nurse. You can't just suddenly go 34 years, 35 years is not there because I don't want to do what a corrupt registration is telling me to do and be quiet. I'm not going to stay quiet because genocide, we all have a duty as citizens to stop genocide. Our elderly are being murdered. What's next? Disabled? I can remember back what I was taught in school about a period of time when they actually did take the children, the disabled children, the epileptics, the elderly, mentally handicapped. They took them all off to a hospital. And then the nurses either killed them with medication or they starved them. Yeah, they thought they were doing the right thing. Those nurses did it. Some of the nurses didn't want to do it. They were moved to different areas. But the nurses did it quite happily because they were told that was the thing to do. Well, let me tell you, those nurses stood trial. They stood trial for genocide at the Nuremberg trials. If you are doing these things and you are staying quiet, you are complicit in a crime and you will be tried. And you certainly will be tried in the next life. So you need to really think about that. As for me, I don't care really what you say about me. It rolls off me. I'm 54, I'm 55 this year. I've reared my children. They're young adults now. I do this for them. So we'll see how that sits with you. Have a good day, natural nurse in a toxic world.